Hello to you. Welcome. My name is Stefan Modesti, aka Smod. Thank you for tuning in on this Sunday podcast. I hope you had a good week. And I'm here. This is actually my first podcast. I'm going to be doing this hopefully weekly and hopefully be tuning in weekly. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? Anyways, quick introduction. I am a mixed race African American, First Nations, and white person. I'm triracial. If you could swallow that. Yeah, triracial. So I've got a few things going on, and I'd like to talk about some stuff here. My podcast is not going to be all about racism or race, but I'm going to talk about it in this first one. I try. I'm going to try to be funny, and we'll see how that goes. So back to be talking about racial stuff here. I'm going to talk about being triracial. It's kind of funny. I remember talking to a cousin of mine and who's also mixed, and we were talking, and I used the word half breed, and he's like, he's always very politically correct. I'm not. He said, no, it's not. It's not half breed or mixed. It's biracial. You're biracial. And mainly, my father was black, mixed with Native Indian, and my mother's white. So let's just say I'm mixed. I was more or less joking about being triracial, but biracial. I'm like, Jesus, sounds like I'm gay and mixed. But anyways, I guess that's the word. Biracial, whatever. Bicycle. I ride a bike too, whatever. Half breed. So I could say, growing up. Mixed, biracial, whatever. I had some identity crisis. I could attest to that for sure. There was a time when I was hoping I was white. I wished I was white. And then later on in the 80s, I got into the hip hop music and stuff. And was one of the music I listened to. I listened to a lot of stuff. But anyways, then I wanted to be black. And then somehow when I was about 18, 19 years old, it sort of just all melted together, and I just said, you know what, I'm both. Screw it, I'm both. I'm going to be both, and I am both. So I just went with that choice, and it's an interesting place to be sometimes, especially when you're talking to people who are from, let's say, another race, whatever. If let's say they're white, and they're discussing racial issues. They find it interesting being mixed, and there's been a lot of curiosity, and the other side too for my black friends that are curious and wonder what it's like to be mixed and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into it too much, but what I want to say is I see a lot of, well, it's always been in the news, but I see a lot of it, or I'm paying attention to it now, that there's a lot of things about diversity and mixing. Being in Canada where I am here, I also frequent the United States, but in Canada here, we see a lot of diversity happening in the main areas, the bigger areas like Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, etc. And so I notice there's a lot of discussion of how to, let's say we're talking about a corporation here that's trying to be, there's that word again, politically correct, or do what they should be doing to cater to all ethnicities and keep a good image and have diversity in the workplace and such forth. A lot of debate comes to when somebody of a certain color that could be considered a token being pushed into a company because of their race, and what if they're qualified or not? What if they're good for the role? What if it's just a token thing where they're just being put in the company because of their race, and therefore they become an ambassador of that culture within that company or whatever it may be. But what I was thinking, I go, what if they, what about mixed people being brought in as a place to help out with diversity? Because being mixed, you can kind of sit on both sides of the fence, which I don't think a lot of other people who are of, let's say, one race or one color or whatever you want to call it, are comfortable with. Talking to some white people that I know, I hate using that word white people black, but anyways, we're talking about it. So let's say a white person. They're very careful with the wording that they use to discuss racial issues or diversity because they're kind of on eggshells. At least the forward-thinking ones are that they're kind of careful what they say because they don't want to be categorized as racist. So they're very careful about what word they use and how they define something. And it's kind of like if you're having a discussion about this kind of thing, it's very hard to get to the roots of these issues. So let's just say a person of mixed culture, ethnicity, could sort of say what it really is and what it, because they're on the fence. They could kind of take both sides. And I think that's a very important thing that should be considered. I don't see much out there about, let's say, mixed people talking about these racial issues. It's always, let's say this in America, where most of the media that I'm exposed to comes from the States because it's nearby, it's a massive country, and they've got a lot of issues right now. And you see a lot of issues that are, let's say, like Black Lives Matter, and in these groups that are protesting, are creating events, doing things to be noticed, the kneeling in football, bringing attention to the way black people are treated in the United States. Which brings another topic here is like, for example, going back to Barack Obama, and I keep reading, back in the early days when he got in there, saying, America's first black president. And I have to think, well, the guy's mixed. He's half white. Yeah, he's brown. And a lot of folks in America think that if you're brown, you're black. But I have to think of myself, and I think I'm just as white as I am black in some ways. It's hard to define that, but it's an understanding that he's exposed to both. So why is that labeled as a black person when he's actually a mixed person? It sort of discredits mixed people, kind of discredits the fact that he's also half white. So sometimes I think America has a bit of an identity problem with defining race sometimes, because I know it's a history that it's hard to get your head around it and what happened in the past, and I'm not going to give everybody a history lesson. We all know what happened. It just seems to be this butting head issue that there's mixed people out there, and they can kind of bridge the gap between, I think, let's just say, the white culture who doesn't understand the black experience. And I'm not speaking for all white people, because it's not, I don't paint everybody with one brush. I'm talking about the ones that are forward thinking, they understand. The ones that are not so forward thinking see black people as completely different, they don't understand. And then it can be the same thing on the black side. There are black people that don't have a clue about white people or are friends with white people. But then there are ones that are forward thinking, that are progressive, that are out there in society doing what everybody else does. And that's what I think most people do, is they just live. They don't see color. But there's obviously an issue, and it comes forward in the media a lot that I see, at least coming from the United States, and not to separate Canada from that, because they do it as well. It's a lot going up here as well. Just not the intensity and not the coverage of that. So anyways, I just thinking that I think mixed people have a unique situation to maybe speak up and do a few things. And if anybody out there is aware of anything like that, please let me know. I would look into that. That's very interesting. One thing that I think would be really effective is, or one thing I believe in, is that if you're going to have an organization and maybe voted, elected, it could be a corporation, could be a government. If, let's say, for example, you have a department that is a diversity or is responsible for that, and let's say human resources or bringing people in to the organization. I think they should, these larger corporations, I think they should hire mixed people to handle that, because then it's a little more equal, I would think. It kind of like, it's a little different topic, but I remember way back in the day, There was a movie, Malcolm X. I believe it was Malcolm X. That Norman Jewison, Canadian movie director, producer that I really like, wanted to do that, but Spike Lee ended up doing that, and it made sense. Not to say that Norman Jewison, he could have done maybe he could have done a better film, by all means, maybe not. But I think it's very important that at least with this topic, this kind of film, would be better represented by Spike Lee, being that he's black. Just to give it some. I mean, like, look at it this way: when you see the massive film industry in India, Bollywood, that is run by Indian people. That's not run by some other culture that could imitate that. That's just the way it is. It's credited. I mean, that's just the way it is. It makes sense in some ways. So I think in companies that are looking to at least diversify, they should consider that for sure, because then now there's somebody speaking who could be a little bit in the middle, who could be a little bit more open and honest, and have the experience of being biracial. There's that word again. Being biracial or mixed or whatever. They could be mixed in many different ways. It doesn't have to be black and white. It could be somebody who's Indian mixed with German. It could be somebody who's Pakistani mixed with Cuban. I mean, who knows? It's all a unique experience, and I think being mixed is can be very, very important, very crucial to creating some harmony and sort of being a moderator with these issues. So I'm closing off here. I appreciate if you listen, if you enjoyed it, have any comments, issues, want to tell me off, whatever, please feel free to do that. And I will be back again soon with another story and another topic. Have a great day.